about pop culture of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, such as major events, music, entertainment?
Well, I've learned that they were very different. They weren't allowed to go on TV and shake their hips, dance. Well, I learned that they couldn't do that, which I thought they could.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog, you're crying all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time.
Like Elvis Presley affected my parents and grandparents, like when he died on the toilet, and
He died on the toilet.
and overdosed of drugs, and Michael Jackson affected my parents, my grandparents. I don't know about my mom. My parents are better.
My touching story.
I heard about some of the older stuff that happened. Hey, what about the bell bottom? Yeah. I want to buy fitness.
My mom
was kind of shocking was there was an earthquake in Peru that killed 72,200 people.
Wow, that's a really big number. Must have been quite a tragedy, huh? So, is there any way that you could compare the 60s, 70s, or 80s era to your generation?
They had a lot of pop music, kind of, and so I gotta say the 80s had a lot of disco music that we might have today, so.
Yeah.
I'm the operator with my pocket calculator. I'm the operator with my pocket calculator.
Pop culture of the 60s, 70s, or 80s?
Seeing the videos that you guys watched was like a trip down memory lane for me. A lot of the music that you guys listened to, I just really, really loved, especially in the 60s, because that's when I was about a middle schooler. I went to junior high school, not middle school back then. And so the music that I got to listen to was just what you listened to on the videos, and it was awesome. Probably one of my favorite singers back then was Neil Diamond, but he was not one of the musicians that Mr. Ryder selected to play on the video. But I remember sitting in front of my radio at home, and I listened to this radio station called Jukebox Time. Do you know what a jukebox is? A jukebox is an electronic piece of equipment, great big piece of equipment, and it has records inside of it. Do you know what records are? There's little vinyl things with holes in them. And you put in money and you got to pick out the song that you wanted to listen to. And so anyway, the radio station was called Jukebox Time, or JBT Time.
I know you want to leave me, but I refuse to let you go. If I have to beg, plead for your sympathy, I don't mind, 'cause you mean that much to me. Ain't too proud to beg, and you know it. Please don't leave me, girl.
Hello, what is your name? My name is Court. Well, I will be Dr. Tobin, and I'll be asking you some questions about the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Okay? What do you know or have learned about pop culture of the 60s, 70s, and 80s?
Well, I learned that they had a lot of stuff different compared to today's fashion and hair. They wore feathers in their hair and stripes. And that's kind of funny.
So, tell me a story that interests you about something that happened during the 60s, 70s, or 80s.
Well, something that interested me in the 60s, 70s, and 80s was probably when President Kennedy got assassinated 3 years after he was elected president. It kind of shocked Americans.
Wow.
So how do you think that their clothes, such as fashion, or their music was so different from today?
Yeah, more than half of the music they listen to was dance music. Now most people listen to music where you just sit down and listen to it and you don't dance as much. And most people don't really do much with music. And back then the music was with instruments, and now it's with computers and stuff.
Okay. So can you tell me a story that interests you about something that happened during the 60s, 70s, or 80s?
In the 80s, there was the aircraft explosion of the Challenger. It was because fuel leaked out of it, and there was a giant, and it reached the fire coming out of the engines, and that made it explode, and they didn't know what was going on until they started seeing it come down.
So I'm guessing that had a very big impact on the next generation.
My language teacher told me that quite a lot of people died that were in there.
Thank you for your time.
What do you know or have learned about pop culture of the 60s, 70s, and the 80s?
Michael Jackson was very famous in the 80s.
Tell me a story that interests you about something that happened during the 60s, 70s, or 80s.
President Nixon's impeachment.
Yeah. How did this era impact your parents and or grandparents? No, that's stupid. You don't know your parents or grandparents.
I know my parents.
How can you compare the 60s, 70s, and 80s era to your generation now?
Michael Jackson. We still listen to Michael Jackson music. The clothes was very different.
Yes. What has your class done to prepare for this documentary on 60s, 70s, and 80s pop culture?
We watched a lot of videos of music.
Oh, did you now?
Yes, we did. Holden!
My name's not Holden. I'm Dr. Phil.
People try to put us talking about my generation. Just a dog we could tell all that. won't you all fade away? About my generation. Don't try to dig what we all say. Talking about my generation.